Hi everyone, let's move on to the next video in morphology. In my last video, I discussed about morphemes. In this video, I will be discussing about types of morphemes. If you want to understand this video well, for that you need to go back to the last video and understand the meaning and definition of morphemes. Let's move on. This is the chart, and if you see morphemes, we had discussed in my last video that morphemes are parts of words, minimal units of words. So morphemes are divided into two types, free and bound morphemes. And free morpheme again is divided into two subtypes, lexical morphemes and functional morphemes. Same way, bound morphemes are also divided into two parts, derivational and inflectional morphemes. So we will discuss each type in detail in this video. So morphemes has got two types, free and bound morphemes, and free morpheme again has got two subtypes, lexical and functional morphemes. Same way, bound morpheme has also got two subtypes, derivational and inflectional morphemes. Let's discuss lexical morpheme. So the first category is that set of ordinary nouns. Remember, all the nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs which we think of as words which carry the content of message we convey, these free morphemes are called lexical morphemes. Now remember, all the nouns in English, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, they are content words because they are meaningful words. Example, if you see boy, man, house, tiger, sad, long, look, etc., they have meaning. They are content words. So we call them lexical morphemes. We can add new lexical morphemes to the language rather easily. So they are treated as open class of words. If you see nouns are open class of words, you can add up number of nouns in this category. Same way, if you see adjectives, you can add up adjectives, because if you see nouns are unlimited, same goes with adjectives also, verbs, adverbs. So there are many. So they are open class items. You can add words into these four categories. So they are lexical morphemes, and we call them free morpheme because they have their own meaning. They are content words. So that was lexical morphemes. If you see next one, functional morphemes, these two are types of subtypes of free morpheme. If you see functional morpheme, so the other group is called functional morphemes. Examples: and, but, when, because, on, near, above, the, in, that, it, etc. This set consists largely of the functional words in language such as conjunctions, prepositions, articles, pronouns. So these four parts of a speech, they come under functional morphemes. Now they have their own meaning, because when, on, near, above, so but they do function in a sentence. They do grammatical function. They are called functional or grammatical morphemes. Now, because we almost never add new functional morphemes to the language, they are described as closed class of words. If you see earlier subtype, that was lexical morpheme, that was open class of words. If you see this one, functional morphemes or grammatical morphemes, they are closed class of words. Why? Because conjunctions are limited, prepositions are limited, articles are limited. There are three only. Pronouns are also limited. You cannot add up more words into these four categories. So these are closed class of words. Earlier we had seen lexical morphemes. They were open class of words because nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and verbs, they are many. So you could add up many words in those categories, but here you cannot do that. You have a limit. So they are called functional morphemes. So these two were types of free morphemes. If you see that bound morphemes, actually if you see that affixation, prefixes and suffixes, they fall under bound morphemes. If you see first one, we will discuss about derivational morphemes. What are derivational morphemes? The set of affixes are called derivational morphemes. Affixes means prefixes and suffixes. So almost all the prefixes and suffixes, they fall under bound morpheme. Why do we call them bound morpheme? We'll discuss that. I've got few exercises also in this video to make the things clear to you. So these are used to make new words in the language. If you see these derivational morphemes or affixes, they are used to make new words in the language. Now, are often used to make words of different grammatical category from the stem. Now they change the grammatical category of words. If you see good, G-O-O-D, good, good is an adjective. When you add N-E-S-S, ness, that's a bound morpheme, you get goodness, that's noun. So from adjective it turned into noun. That way they derive the new category of the word from adjective to noun. That's why we call them derivational morphemes. Now there are so many derivational morphemes. There is a list here. If you see suffixes like ish, ish, ly, li, ness, meant, etc., they are derivational morphemes. If you see prefixes like pre, ex, dis, co, un, and many more, they are called derivational morphemes, because when you attach these suffixes and prefixes to the stem, to the main word, the grammatical category of the word changes, like from noun to adjective, adjective to noun, a noun to adverb. That way we call these prefixes and suffixes derivational morphemes, because they derive new grammatical category, so we call them derivational morphemes. So this is one type of bound morpheme. Another subtype is inflectional morphemes. Now, what are inflectional morphemes? The second set of bound morphemes contains what are called inflectional morphemes. These are not used to produce new words in English language, but rather to indicate aspects of grammatical functions of a word. See, for example, if you see in last subtype, that was derivational morphemes, you could change the grammatical category of the word from noun to verb, verb to noun, adjective to noun. You could do that in last category subtype. But if you see here in this inflectional morphemes, you cannot do that. They do not change grammatical category of the word. Basically they are used to make if a word is plural or singular, or it's a past tense or not, or is it a comparative or possessive form. So there are only 8 inflectional morphemes, 8 morphemes. They are called, actually they come under the category of suffixes, so they are inflectional suffixes. You can say inflectional morphemes. Like for example, if you see gym, gym is a noun, so when you add s in that s, again it's a noun. So from noun to noun, there is no change in the grammatical category of the word. It's from noun to noun. Sister, again noun. Sisters, again plural form, but it's a noun. Laugh is a verb. Laughing, you add ing in that, it becomes verb. So these suffixes, or you can say inflectional morphemes, like s, ing, ed, en, s, est, er, they are called inflectional morphemes. And remember one more important thing: you cannot add anything after inflectional morpheme. They stop the word. They do not allow the word to grow more in size. So they are called inflectional morphemes. So so far we've discussed free and bound morpheme. In free morpheme we have 2 subtypes, that's lexical and functional morphemes. In bound morphemes we've got 2 subtypes, derivational and inflectional morphemes. Now I will discuss these subtypes from the exercises which I have taken from some books. Like if you see here, word, free morpheme and bound morpheme. Now if you see this word create, it can be divided into 2 parts. It means into 2 morphemes, like create and or. If you see create, it's a free morpheme. Why? Because it's a meaningful unit. It's a lexical morpheme. It's a content morpheme. It has got meaning. Create it has got some message in that. It's called free morpheme. It can stand independently. Create does not need any other word to be added into it to derive the meaning or to give away the meaning, but it's itself an independent entity. It's itself independent word. So create is a free morpheme, or is a bound morpheme, because we cannot just use or, because it's not a meaningful unit. For example, if someone asks me, who is your father, if I say or, they won't understand, because these are bound morphemes. These morphemes should be bound, only then they will get their existence. Now if you say disappear, we have again two morphemes here, appear and dis. Appear is free morpheme, it's a meaningful unit, but this is not a meaningful unit. It should be bound with some free morpheme, only then this will be a meaningful unit. So this is a bound morpheme, appear is a free morpheme. Prevent, you cannot divide this word into two morphemes like pre and vent, because it's just one word. So you can say it's a prevent, it's just one free morpheme, it's a meaningful unit. Next, prerequisite. Here you have to requisite and pre. So requisite is free morpheme and pre is bound morpheme. Allowance, again allow, free, and bound morpheme. Assimilation, assimilate is a verb, so free morpheme, ion, bound morpheme. And antique, one word, you cannot separate this word into morphemes, so it's just one word. Antique, it's a free morpheme, and you cannot subdivide this word, so this is just one free morpheme. Now I think things are clear to you now. Bound morphemes cannot stand independently, they are dependent units. But if you see free morphemes, they are independent. Create, appear, prevent, requisite, allow, assimilate, antique, because these are meaningful words. They are content word, they are lexical word, they have their own meaning, so they are called free morphemes. Next part, just to understand the difference between derivational and inflectional morphemes, I've got one exercise here. This one, if you see derivational and inflectional morpheme, I've already told you about it in when I was discussing about these two terms separately, but now as they are side by side, will be very easy for us to understand these two terms by comparing them with each other. If you see first one, derivational inflectional morpheme, like for example, if you see form, 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 it's a noun, but when you add al in that, it becomes adjective. So a new word is derived, derivational morpheme. Derive means finding something new. So here noun plus al, it's formal, adjective. From noun it became adjective, so al is a derivational morpheme. If you see blind is an adjective, but when you add nes in that, it becomes blindness, it becomes a noun. From adjective it becomes a noun, so nes is a derivational morpheme. If you see love is a noun, if you add ly, it becomes lovely, it becomes adjective. From noun to adjective, because derivational morphemes, they change the grammatical category of the word. That's why we call them derivational morphemes. If you see last one, care is a noun, if you add full, careful, so it becomes adjective. So these are derivational morphemes. Hope you understood this very well. If you see inflectional morphemes, here you could see the change in the grammatical category, but in inflectional morphemes you may not find that, because they stop the word, they do not allow the word to grow further in size. Like for example, form is a noun, when you add s in that, forms, again it's a noun. From singular to plural, but it's a noun only. It's not changing the grammatical category of the word, it's not changing the parts of speech of a word, so it's inflectional morpheme. If you see ask is a verb, you add ed in that, it becomes asked. Again from verb to verb, no change at all. Move, ing, moving, from verb to verb, same thing. Loud is an adjective, you add est, it becomes loudest, adjective. So there is no change here in this in inflectional morpheme. You will not find the change in the grammatical category. That's why we call them inflectional morphemes. So far we've seen the difference between derivational and inflectional morphemes, between free and bound morphemes, and we've also covered lexical and functional morpheme with their meaning. Now just note, remember this one, I have already told you about it. Pre-morphemes, that's lexical and functional morphemes, can stand independently. I told you, because these are meaningful words. Boy, table, chair, computer, light, all that. No, so all these are lexical morphemes. They have got their own meaning. They are content word, informative word. But if you see bound morphemes, they are derivational and inflectional morphemes. Especially they are prefixes and suffixes, and they do not have their own meaning. We have to attach them with some other word to get them in, to make them meaningful units. That's why they cannot stand independently. If you ask me where are you going, if I say ing, this, un, you may not understand, because they are not dependent unit. They are they are not independent unit, they are dependent unit. So they are bound. That's why we call them bound morpheme. Bound means they must be bound, attached with some word to be a meaningful unit. So far we've discussed that too, and I think things are very clear to you now. So at last, thank you very much. If you really understood this video, kindly subscribe the channel and wait for the next video on the same topic, that's morphology. Thank you very